Welcome to today's Deep Dive. I'm your host. And if you're listening to this right now, you've probably had one of those weeks where you were just constantly moving,
Oh, yeah.
constantly putting out fires. Yet when you finally close your laptop on Friday afternoon, you look at your to-do list.
And you realize you haven't actually accomplished anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing that actually moves the needle. So our mission today is to rescue you from that exhausting trap. We want to help you step off that treadmill of continuous motion.
And really start mastering your time. I'm glad to be here to help unpack this because it's a universal friction point. We all suffer from this illusion of being busy. We assume that because we're thoroughly exhausted, we must be making significant progress.
Right.
But the source material we're looking at today dismantles that illusion entirely. It provides a real framework to differentiate between mere motion and actual progress.
And speaking of the source material, it's a fascinating one today. We are looking at an internal training deck from a company called Fu Biomining.
Right. PBM.
Yeah. The document is titled The Supervisory Skills Development Program, Time Management. And I know what you might be thinking.
Why are we reading a corporate training document for a heavy industrial mining company?
Exactly. How does that apply to your life? But the psychological insights into why we fail at managing our days, they're remarkably universal.
Totally. Whether you're overseeing a massive open pit mining operation or managing a software team or just trying to organize your week to find a few hours for a hobby, the cognitive traps are identical.
The challenges of human behavior just don't change.
No, they don't. The way our brains process tasks, avoid difficult work, and just succumb to the chaos of the immediate moment, it remains a constant.
So let's dive right into the cold, hard math of time constraints. The source material doesn't sugarcoat this at all.
Not even a little.
It points out that there are 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours a day, and exactly 168 hours in a week, period.
That's the limit.
And here's where it gets really interesting. You absolutely cannot create more time. You can only make effective use of the 168 hours that you already have. It's a completely rigid boundary.
It forces a necessary perspective shift, I think. And to drive that point home, the training document uses this brilliant visual analogy.
The budget one?
Yes, it compares your weekly time allotment to a financial salary budget. So think about your monthly paycheck.
Okay.
You have a fixed amount of capital coming in, and that salary is immediately drained by necessary expenses. Your rent, groceries, education costs.
The non-negotiables.
Right. Then you inevitably face unexpected drains, like a sudden medical bill or a car repair.
Yeah.
And finally, whatever marginal amount is left over goes to discretionary things, entertainment, dining out. Well, your 168 hours operate under the exact same economic principles.
Your daily tasks, endless meetings, those sudden emergencies, they're constantly draining that 168-hour budget.
Exactly.
And the document argues that if you lack the time to do the truly important things in your role, you have to ruthlessly audit how you currently spend your time.
Like a bank statement.
Yeah. So I have to ask you, the listener, are you treating your time with the exact same scrutiny as your paycheck? Because if you're constantly overdrawing your checking account, you sit down and look at your spending habits.
But when we overdraw our time, we just throw our hands up and complain that we're busy. We treat time as an infinite resource, even though we know it isn't.
So how do we actually change that baseline behavior?
Well, the source introduces a framework called the learning cycle. If we want to stop overdrawing our time budget, we have to alter our habits.
And that takes a specific process.
A 4-step cognitive process, yeah. Step 1 is experience.
Which is just the things that happen to us at work or in life, right?
Exactly. Then step 2 is reflect. And from my reading of the text, this is where the entire system breaks down for most people.
Oh, absolutely. Reflection is notoriously difficult because sitting still just feels unproductive.
Right, but you have to actually think about those experiences and analyze what works or what doesn't, which leads to step 3, make conclusions.
Deciding how to do things differently going forward.
Spot on. And finally, step 4 is apply. Actually putting those new ideas into action.
Experience, reflect, make conclusions, apply. The framework makes sense. But to really bring this home, the source material shares this hilarious but painfully relatable story about a guy they call Mr. X.
The tragedy of Mr. X. It is the perfect case study in reactive living.
It really is. So Mr. X just needs to run a simple errand, get some grocery shopping done for his wife, singular goal.
Right.
But the trip turns into an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
First, his car runs out of petrol.
Bad planning.
Obviously.
Heh.
Then he gets a flat tire. Now, you could argue a flat tire is just bad luck.
But the document specifically notes that the tire was severely worn. He knew about it. He just hadn't thought ahead to replace it.
He's just reacting to the latest emergency. And it escalates. While he's dealing with all these vehicular failures, he ends up buying a PlayStation 3 for his son.
Which is buying what he liked rather than what he needed.
Exactly. And the kicker, by impulsively buying that PS3, he completely forgets to save the money for his kids' school fees.
It's wild. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, Mr. X has absolutely no control.
None.
He doesn't plan. He only reacts to the immediate environment. And the source points out that people like Mr. X act the exact same way at work.
They're the ones constantly asking, where does my time go?
Yes, because they are permanently trapped in the experience phase of the learning cycle. Things happen to them, but they never pause to reflect or make conclusions.
Which brings us to the core distinction of this entire program, the busy trap. There's a profound quote in the text. Continuous motion is not a true indicator of progress.
That is the trap of the modern workplace. And to escape it, the source material breaks down two very strict definitions: urgent work versus important work.
Let's unpack those. Start with urgent.
Urgent work is critical right now. It demands immediate attention, but the results are usually not long-lasting.
It's often the work we actually like to do, isn't it?
Strangely, yes, because it's easy and it gives us an immediate result. You fix a minor equipment breakdown or correct an employee's mistake, and you get that instant gratification.
The bleeding stops and you feel accomplished.
Right. But important work is fundamentally different. It's not normally urgent. It takes hours, days, or even weeks to accomplish.
And the results cannot be seen immediately.
Exactly. Which makes it incredibly easy to delay because, frankly, we just don't want to do it. It's things like training a team, establishing procedures, improving overall efficiency.
High cognitive load stuff.
Yes.
To make this tangible, the training text uses a really specific scenario. Imagine you're the accounts payable supervisor for this mining fleet.
Okay, high stress job.
Very. And a supplier of critical equipment spares calls you at the last minute. They threaten to cancel all scheduled deliveries and refuse future orders if an overdue invoice isn't paid by 5:00 p.m. tonight.
And if the mining fleet doesn't get those spares, the whole operation shuts down.
Right. So getting that check drawn and the money transferred by 5:00 p.m., that is the urgent task.
Because the supplier is screaming.
Exactly. But getting the invoice processing procedure properly organized so your staff doesn't miss a payment again?
That is the important task. And that perfectly illustrates where leaders stumble. You wire the money at 4:59 p.m. and you feel like an absolute hero.
You save the day.
You did. But the next morning, you don't want to do the boring work of writing a standard operating procedure, so you ignore the important work.
And a month later, another invoice falls through the cracks.
Exactly. You become Mr. X again.
Which begs the question, why do we sabotage ourselves like this? If we know the urgent tasks aren't the most important, why we default to them?
The psychology here is fascinating. The source reveals that urgent tasks make us look like we are working hard to anyone watching.
It's performative.
It is. But more deeply, keeping everything urgent makes our team rely on us. It allows us to keep control. It makes us feel important and needed.
So it's an ego stroke. If you're the only one who can put out the fire, you get daily validation.
Exactly. But the consequences of that are massive. For the team, it breeds low morale, chaos, confusion. They just bounce from one emergency to another.
Because the leader is disorganized.
Right. And for the individual, the text says you'll be consistently late, you'll put in lots of effort with few results, and you'll make bad decisions.
Because there's literally no time left to think.
None. And this creates a predictable timeline to crisis. The source actually has a visual for this.
Walk us through that visual.
So it tracks an important project over time. Since important work requires long-term effort, at the very beginning, your mindset is plenty of time not to worry.
Because the deadline is months away, and today's urgent tasks are so loud.
Right. But if you delay it, time passes. Your mindset shifts to, I'd better get started.
But you still don't.
Right, because starting a big project is hard. So you keep delaying until suddenly the deadline is right there and you think, I hope I can get finished on time.
And then the text says it becomes a crisis.
Yes. Ultimately, once a deadline is close, important work becomes urgent work. The combination of important plus urgent equals a crisis.
The time spent on daily urgent tasks literally steals the time needed for those longer-term important results.
It's theft, basically.
So how do we take back control? The text explicitly states that managing time is not an individual skill.
Right, it's not just willpower.
It requires applying basic structural skills.
Yeah.
Planning, prioritizing, scheduling, and delegating the non-critical work.
You have to build a structure to prevent that crisis phase. And PBM categorizes work into 3 distinct buckets to do this.
Let's go through those buckets. The first one is annual or large tasks.
These are things that occur around the same time each 12-month cycle. In the text, they mention the Laos annual performance reviews in March.
Or expatriate interim reviews in June.
Right, or department budget reviews in December. The point is, these are predictable. You shouldn't be surprised by them.
The second bucket is projects or one-off work.
Deadlines given by a manager, like setting up a training system by March, or machinery training by July.
Or setting up department procedures on the intranet by November.
Exactly. And the third bucket is routine work.
The daily, weekly, or monthly repeats. End-of-month reports by the 5th, timesheets by the 4th, weekly safety inspections.
The inescapable grind. But by categorizing your work into these 3 buckets, you see your baseline.
But you also have to anticipate the unplanned emergencies, right?
Yes, you have to leave a buffer. If you book your calendar to 100% capacity with just routine work and projects, the first emergency will collapse your whole schedule.
So for you listening right now, the takeaway is clear. By categorizing your own work into these buckets and building in that buffer for emergencies, you can finally step off that reactive treadmill.
You can move away from the chaos of Mr. X and actually use the reflection part of the learning cycle.
Deliberately choosing the important over the urgent. It's how you master those 168 hours.
It is. But I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought based on the text.
Let's hear it.
We talked about how doing urgent firefighting work makes us feel needed and important because our team relies on us to save the day.
The ego stroke.
Right. Well, this raises a really tough question. True time management and having smooth procedures, it might actually feel a little bit boring in the short term.
Because there are no fires to put out.
Exactly. It will definitely make you less of a daily hero. So the question is, are you brave enough to let go of your own ego and your desire to feel indispensable in the moment in order to achieve actual long-term success?
Wow. Are you brave enough to be boring? That is a fantastic question to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take a look at your own calendar this week. Find those hidden, urgent versus important conflicts and start building your buckets. We'll see you next time.